Hi guys, today in this video I'll be showing you how to clean out your old desktop computer. So to start off, this is a Windows XP system that I picked up for £10 and I've had a look inside and it is completely carpeted in dust, dirt, it's awful. So in this tutorial I'm going to be showing you the process of taking apart your desktop PC and cleaning out, removing all of the stuff inside, cleaning it all up, putting it all back in, making it look good as new. So, to start off, all you really want is a little screwdriver like this one, and that is to take the side panel off. So, have a look at your PC. On one side, there should be a couple ventilation holes, and you shouldn't be able to see through that far. So if you see metal plates behind there, then that's not the side you want. But if you see larger ventilation holes and is that focused? Larger ventilation holes, and you can see through to the motherboard, the graphics card, then this is the side you want to take apart first. So to start off, you just want to undo these two screws, maybe less, maybe more on your computer. I know some don't have any screws, they just have clips that you can slide down and slide the case off. So, that is the side of the PC off. And as you can see already, even this cover here is completely caked in dust. I can't focus. There we go. Completely caked in dust. So, if you put that case to the side, then I will bring you closer to have a look at what is inside this. So, as you can see, the bottom of this is just a thick carpet of dust. Not very nice. Everything is covered in it, the fan, the hard drive, everything's very dirty, and having dust completely covering your heatsink is probably going to affect your performance just a little bit. So, I'll move the camera back up here. You first want to start off with removing all the little cables that are connected to the PC. So, your main ones, your SATA cable, that's what the hard drive is connected to. This one is the floppy disk cable, and most computers won't have this, this is just a bit of an older computer. All the little cables that connect the front panel to the PC, you want to get rid of all of these. This one, you want to get rid of the big power cable. You might want to give it a little wiggle until it comes out. And the disk drive cable, and you should have one more cable that's from the power supply, a little 2x2 pin connector. So now that you've got all of your cables removed, there's a couple more down here for the front panel. So once you have all of your cables removed, you want to take a closer look and have a look at where all of the screws are in the case. So I've got a couple here, so I'm probably going to need to take off this side panel. And again, this is going to be a bit of a longer tutorial because I'm trying to make it as in-depth as possible so that people don't get confused, because I've seen some other videos and they just go straight in with the time lapse and do a little voiceover and it lasts about 3 minutes. But just to make it easier for you to understand, I'm going to try and make it a bit longer. So, you want to take off the back panel, which is where all the screws will come out of. Now, if you take a closer look into this PC, you'll notice there are quite a few screws. The lighting is very dark, but as you can see there is a screw right there, 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 there. There's quite a few screws, so I will quickly undo those and be right back. So now that we have most of the screws removed, it's just a case of taking this back I/O panel out which can sometimes be a bit tricky. You have to push it a couple of ways. Just make sure it's disconnected all the sides, and then you should just be able to be very careful while doing this. You should be able to get the motherboard out of the case. And this can be a bit tricky, but don't rush. If you damage the motherboard, then that's not very good. So here is the motherboard. It's now out of the PC. As you can see, it's very, very dusty and yeah, it's not very good. So this little I/O panel here, you want to make sure not to lose this. So I'm going to keep that to the side along with my motherboard screws. Now another bit of the motherboard, you want to take this off before we start cleaning it. This is the RAM. In this case, this is just a 1 GB stick. Not very impressive. You want to put that to the side, keep that safe as well. So now you've got the motherboard, you want to take your CPU fan off, and I will go up close and do a little time lapse of that as well. So once you have loosened all of the screws, you just want to unplug the fan part of your CPU, like so, and then it should be very simple, pulling this bit off, and again your CPU cooler may look different depending on which computer you have. Now as you can see, we've got lots of what this is called thermal compound on here and also on the CPU. And to get rid of this, usually you just want a little isopropyl alcohol wipe, and I have a couple here for when I need to do this. Now any kind of rubbing alcohol or whatever will do this, but I've just got a little isopropyl alcohol one here. So what I'm going to do is, again your CPU may be different, but you want to undo the hook. This is an LGA 775 motherboard socket. So you just want to undo that and then lift this part up. Now here you want to be very careful because underneath this there are pins, and if they get bent that could mean trouble for your PC. So you want to pick up this CPU bit, and this is the main brains of your computer. So you want to be very careful not to damage any of these contacts. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab just a bit of paper. I know it's not the best, but here we go, a bit of card will do. And I'm just going to place it there for now, just so that it doesn't pick up any dirt and muck up the contacts. So I've got a little alcohol wipe here, and what I'm going to do is tear along the line. Now that I've got the wipe out, I'm just going to gently rub this until all of the thermal compound is removed, because we will be replacing this near the end. And don't worry if you get it wet a bit, because this is alcohol and alcohol evaporates, so don't worry. So once your CPU is completely clean, you might want to grab a little tissue or cloth, a microfiber one here. Just give it a little rub, make sure everything's removed, and if it isn't, give it another little rub. You can apply a bit of pressure if you want, and make sure to go around these edges, make sure all of that stuff's removed, because that is very old. So, as you can see, I've got all these little bits on the paper. I want to tap those off so that they don't get stuck on the pins, on any of the contacts. Just going to give it one last go over. And that is the CPU cleaned. So this CPU, if it focuses, I believe is a Pentium 4. Yes, it's a Pentium 4 at 3.4 GHz. So I'm going to put this aside, and if you have, by any chance, one of these little CPU cases that if you buy a new CPU, that comes with it. I'm just going to open this up if I can, and place it in here for now, just to keep it safe, because we don't want to damage the CPU. So, now to continue with the motherboard. Again, this is probably going to be a little bit of a longer video than normal. Now you just want to dab this and be very, very careful of the pins. Like just then, I saw one little pin and it got caught to this cloth, so do not use a cloth for any of this. Do not do what I just did. Oops. But for the rest of the board, just be very careful at getting rid of all this dust. Once you've got rid of all the dust on here, again be very, very careful of your CPU slot. If you damage that, that could be the end of your motherboard. So once you've got rid of all this dirt and stuff, you just want to put your motherboard to the side and we can carry on with the rest of the PC. So now we've put that bit to the side, all you want to do now is take the fan off of this part, give it a good old clean, put the fan back on, and then save it for after we finish the rest of the PC. So the next thing I'm going to be removing, it's collected a lot of dust, is the hard drive. Now, other hard drives may not be this simple to remove, you may have to undo a couple of screws, but it should be fairly self-explanatory. But with this one, I'm just going to press on these two contacts and give it a little pull. Then I'm going to disconnect the cables. And now that I've got the hard drive, you want to give it a little dust over. Let's get the dust that I've got. Want to give it a good dust until it's nice and shiny again. You already see an instant difference. And again, always be careful of all the contact pins, you don't want to damage any of them. So there's the hard drive complete, and you're going to put that to the side. Now the next thing I want to do is at the top of your PC, you'll see the disk drive. In fact, I think I might want to get a better angle of this. There we go, I think that's a bit better. But at the top here, you've got your disk drive, if you have one. And what you want to do is you want to remove the Molex power cable and the hard drive disk cable, which basically sends information to and from the disk drive from the motherboard. And now on my one, it's just a simple case of removing two screws. And then once those two screws are removed, you want to, it's either a push or a pull. Now in this case, my computer is a push. So what we're going to want to do is, if you've got any of these contact points inside, you're going to want to take this front portion off, and then you'll be able to remove the disk drive. So the case with my PC, you don't actually need to remove this whole front portion, because I just forgot that all I have to do is just swing this off because it's connected to with a few magnets. So what I'm going to do is, now that these screws are out, I'm going to turn this around. Just going to give it a little push. Aha! In fact, before you do that, you want to remove the two screws from the other side, which I will do very quickly. So again, this is only if your PC is very, very dirty. Otherwise, you probably wouldn't need to do all of this. But there we go, now that screw is removed. I'm just going to push this drive through. Can you see that? I'm just putting my hand behind and pushing it through. So now that this is out, I'm going to give it a quick dust until everything is off of it. And there is the disk drive complete. We'll put that to the side. And now you should be left with a pretty bare bones case apart from your power supply. So with the power supply, it's just a couple screws around. You want to undo those and remove the power supply. So now that you have removed the power supply, it should look something like this. And you should be left with a pretty bare bones case apart from a few cables. You need a tiny bit of hardware in there, it doesn't really matter. But now to clean out the whole case, as you can see it's got loads of dust at the bottom. You'll probably want one of these, an air duster. You can pick those up for about £5 at a stationery store or a computer store. And you want a dusting cloth. and you probably don't want to do this inside because it's only going to get on more things. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this case outside, I'm going to dust it. So now that you've taken your PC outside, you want to take your air duster and get rid of the main big bits of dust. So you just want to go around all the corners, around all the edges. Until most of the big bits are kind of displaced. And you want to take the duster and dust everything out. Now that you've cleaned up the main case of the PC, you will want to now clean up most of the hardware. So I'm going to start off with my stick of RAM. You just rub the cloth over a few times until it's all gone, just like that. And then with the rest of your pieces of hardware, you just want to repeat the exact same process until all the dust is gone. So now that you've got the majority of all the big parts removed and cleaned, you want to do your side panels for the PC if they're dusty. And then after all that's done, you've only got the motherboard and the CPU cooler to do. So, to do the CPU cooler, you want to remove these 4 screws around here. Should be fairly easy. Oops. And once all of those are removed, you want to again grab your dusting cloth and get rid of all of this dust. So once you've cleaned out these 2 parts, you'll then want to turn it around again. Make sure you've got it the right way around, so with my one the sticker is facing the bottom here. And then you want to fasten them back up with the screws that you got. So once you've assembled your CPU cooler, you then want to very carefully, and minding the socket here, in fact you might just want to place something over that so you don't accidentally get something caught in pins. You'll want to very carefully go over the whole thing, but be very careful not to break, snap, pull anything. And this might take a little while, so I'm going to time lapse it and I'll be right back. So now that you have cleaned absolutely everything to do with the PC, you can begin by getting the CPU, which we took out a bit earlier, if I can find where I put it. Here it is. And you want to put it back into its slot. So you want to be very careful with the pins again. If you mess them up, it's not going to work. So you should have a little arrow here, and it should be pointing, if I get a closer look, and it should be, you should get it, so there's 2 notches there and there. There's an arrow pointing to the bottom left usually, so I'm just going to place that with the socket and let it drop. Don't push it, don't do anything, and then you're just going to put this cover back down and you're going to secure it using this little pin. So that's the CPU now back into the motherboard, which is good. So now what we're going to want to do is you're going to want to put your CPU fan back on, and again, if you don't know how to do this, just go and watch the earlier bit of the video where I took this off, and just want to do everything in reverse until you've got the motherboard, the CPU, the power supply, your RAM, hard drive, disc player back in, And then you need to plug the cables in, and I will show you that in just a second. Actually, what you mustn't forget is before you do any of that, is to get your thermal compound before you put your CPU back on, and you just want to do a little grain rice kind of thing. So about this size. And even that might be a bit much. So once you've done that, you want to carry on with what I just said. So now that you've reassembled your PC, shouldn't take too long, you should be left with a much nicer looking PC. No dust. Should get a tiny bit of better temperature now that you've cleaned out the CPU cooler. Tried my best at cable management, but it doesn't really matter on a closed case PC like this. So that is how you deep clean a old PC like this one. If you'd like to see more videos like this, computer videos, Raspberry Pi, 3D printing, making things, and please be sure to comment, like and subscribe. See ya!